Hello, and thank you for having me here in Belgrade, Serbia. My name is Dr. Ezra Lockhart, and today I'll be presenting on my research on motivation and cognitive behavioral factors in problematic online gaming. My study. Computers, mobile devices, smartphones, and the internet have become ubiquitous. Both technologies are integral for political, economic, and social functioning of modern society, and people are using these technologies for leisure, recreation, and entertainment. Computer technology has been commercially accessible to the US general public since 1983, while access to the internet is more recent as of 1990. Over the past 40 years, there has been an exponential increase in computers in the US households, going from 8% in the 1980s to 83% currently. Internet access in the households has seen a similar increase over a 25-year period, which grew from 18% to 81% from 1997 to 2018. When you consider the developed world and the undeveloped world, computers in the households is 83% and 36.3% respectively. There is also a report that 80.9% of the population in developed countries and 45.3% of developing countries use the internet in some form or another. For those without access to the internet at home, internet cafes have become an alternative techno-social space with increasing popularity in Asian countries. Both access to computers and the internet in household has led to higher daily use for each of these technologies, resulting in people spending long periods of time in front of a computer screen. So what we're talking about is 2 billion estimated internet users globally and 325 million internet users in the US. 77% of adults and children are using computers as a form of recreation, and specifically computer games. However, a portion of the population, both globally and here in the US, are developing unhealthy preoccupations with problematic or with gaming activities, especially those on the internet. But what is unhealthy preoccupations, problematic gaming behaviors, and pathological gaming? There are several dimensions that indicate pathological gaming. Average use that exceeds 25.5 hours a week, habitual routines that can go upwards of 85 hours per week, preoccupation outside of gameplay, using gameplay to alleviate negative feelings, and when you attempt to stop or decrease gameplay, leading to negative feelings, and then neglect and abandonment of schooling, employment, relationships, child rearing, and physical health. There has been some extreme presentations of problematic online gaming behaviors that has led to death by exhaustion, suicide, infanticide, and even homicide. I have a study in development that reviewed the past 20 years of severe problematic online gaming behaviors reported in news media. And the matrix is here. Some highlights is that infanticide has been reported, whether the death was intentional or unintentional by means of neglect. Most children were intentionally killed in order for the gamer to continue to engage in gameplay. 5 cases of this type came out of South Korea, and 3 came out of the United States. The MMORPG is a gaming genre that differs from linear gameplay. Firstly, it's an acronym for massive multiplayer online role-playing games. And the elements that are persistent in these types of games is that there is a persistent state open virtual world with no conclusion to the game, routine daily progress tasks, routine updates of game content and game balancing from the game creators, and then the player-built virtual communities with sustained collaboration. Note that MMORPGs are the most documented gaming genre to date linked to problematic and pathological gaming, with a body of literature spanning 20 years. Across the globe, and especially here in the US, there is a stereotypical gamer that comes to mind. Research reveals otherwise. Most gamers are actually adults with an average age of 35, and gender is rather balanced, with 54% males and 46% females. Emerging research is finding that couples that game together or play different gaming genres are in the household. This isn't to say that youth do not game. Now let's talk about motivation, cognition, and behaviors. There's two theories. Yi proposed that motivation to play online games was critical to conceptualizing problematic online gaming, while Davis proposed a cognitive behavioral model of pathological internet use. Let's start off with what motivates people to play electronic or digital games. Yi's work was groundbreaking during an era dominated by compulsive models of technology addiction. Across a 3-year period, Yi took an alternative approach by positing player motivation was the underlying cause of gaming. And in that, he found 3 motivation types: achievement, immersion, social. And as you can see, my recent study shows that the total variance can be explained for problematic online gaming behaviors by these 3 motivations. 44% is achievement, 36.8% of problematic online gaming behaviors can be described by immersion, and social motivation is actually a protective factor. The cognitive behavioral model of pathology internet use was developed to describe the etiology and symptomatology of problematic online gaming. And Davis created an etiological chain in which the central theme was maladaptive cognitions, and the proximal closest to the problem was specific pathological internet use, which is use on the internet or applications on the internet, and then behavioral symptoms. And that distal, necessary, sufficient, and contributory factors were pre-existing psychopathology, exposure to technology or access to technology, situational cues, and life stressors. While Yi's theory described the psychological dependence of gamers by means of their motivation to play online games, Davis' model described and explained problematic online gaming by maladaptive cognitions, behavioral symptoms, pre-existing psychopathology, life stressors, situational cues, and exposure to technology. And Yi provided insight into the motivation, which is now placed through theory triangulation in this reconceptualized framework. Now to the present study, which asked 4 research questions. What are adult MMORPG players' lived experiences of non-problematic and problematic online gaming behaviors, prior attempts to prevent problematic online gaming behaviors? And lastly, I asked adult MMORPG players to opine how to prevent problematic online gaming behaviors, which is rarely asked of the gaming community directly. The materials and methods used was a qualitative, descriptive, pre-transcendental, psychological, phenomenological method by Georgi. This preserved the subjectivity of the participant by documenting the lived experience without distortion from interpretation, premature analysis, or researcher-conceived explanation, and thus provided a distillation of the lived experience in specifically psychological structures. I used open-ended, semi-structured interview questions, phenomenological bracketing, a 13 interview question field tested guide by 3 experts in the field of technology-based addictions. I did member checking, and the analysis was twofold, both in a manual 5-step phenomenological psychological data analysis by the same researcher, and an electronic data analysis using NVivo 12, just to check my results of interviewing 7 US MMORPG players between ages of 18 and 40, which is the high risk group, produced 26 themes and sub-themes In terms of player demographics, all were male within the targeted age group. The average age was 32.28 years. 4 were married, 3 were single, which is a fairly good split, or even split. And what we found, or what I found, was several benefits of online gameplay. There was improved access to and maintenance of real life and virtual relationships, increased attention and focus, and increased and or perceived increase in technology competency. The detriments of online gameplay was pre-existing psychopathology, specifically anxiety, depression, and ADHD, maladaptive cognition, specifically anxious depression and loneliness, and behavioral symptoms that closely align with the APA's proposed diagnostic criteria for internet gaming disorder. And lastly, virtual friendships. There's a perception that virtual friendship maintenance was obligatory. Further results in attempts to prevent problematic online gaming behaviors: boredom with online gameplay, limited access, treatment of problematic online behaviors directly. And then adult gamers opined that the ways to prevent these behaviors was gaining insight and awareness, developing support systems, and treatment of underlying or pre-existing psychopathology. There were several surprises, 3 in fact, in this study. MMORPG gameplay increased attention and focus, perceived or actual technology competency, and then boredom with online gameplay actually might prevent online gameplay with problematic features. So there's a conclusion here in my research. Integrated theory provided a balanced approach to uncover both detriments and benefits of MMORPG, instead of purely looking at this as a pathological issue. The population of note is entrenched in gamer identity, which encapsulates gamer culture. And it led to differing perspectives of the experience of problematic online gaming behaviors, as well as informed potential prevention outside of the perspectives of clinical researchers. And several recommendations come out of this study. For treatment, residential treatment should routinely transition to intensive outpatient as a form of aftercare. There should be a use of co-occurring disorder treatment models to address pre-existing psychopathology that's related with problematic online gaming behavior. And then in terms of prevention, treatment of the underlying psychopathology in absence of specific treatment for internet gaming or gaming disorder. And then lastly, to build and reinforce social, therapeutic, and institutional support systems. I thank you for your time today.